Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new early movie review, and today we'll be discussing a new biographical drama by the name of Respect, which is a film based upon the life of the icon, the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. Now, I got a chance to check it out in theaters the other night, and I'm really excited to let you all know what I thought about the movie and let you know if it's worth checking out when it comes to theaters on August 13th, all in this spoiler-free review. Before we break it all down, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert from when I drop new content. If you all enjoyed this spoiler-free review of Respect, well, make sure to like and share this video. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate all the support. And in those comments, let's talk about a couple things. Number one, were you excited for this film? Number two, were you and are you an Aretha Franklin fan? And number three, once you have seen this film, what'd you think about it? Let's talk your pros, your cons, and particularly, let's talk about what you think of the direction of this film. What'd you think of the story and the time period that we focus on Aretha Franklin's life? What'd you think of the supporting characters and their roles in her life? What did you think of Jennifer Hudson, her singing, her performances, as well as just, how did you just feel about this film as a whole? And let's talk about the other side of the spectrum. Were you disappointed? Were you not entertained? Did you not feel like it was a good film? Were you bored? Was it too long? As well as let's have some fun in the comments. Let me know some of your favorite biopics in the comments below, as well as what artist or singer would you like to see get a biopic about their life in the future? Let's talk about it in the comment section. So going into Respect, a couple things here. Number one, I'm a pretty big Aretha Franklin fan. Growing up in my grandmother's house, there was a variety of artists that always played in the house, but Reverend Al Green was always playing, The Temptations, and Aretha Franklin. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a super fan of Aretha Franklin in regards to knowing everything about her life. I knew the basics, right? I knew the Queen of Soul. I knew a lot of her music. I knew how important she was to the gospel genre. I knew her, her importance in her activism and her being a part of the civil rights movement. I knew the basic stuff, but I didn't know about the drama. I didn't know about her childhood and her dad and her multiple, children and her relationships with her husband. That stuff I didn't know about. And I'll be honest with you all, I'm not a big biopic fan because I feel like two things happen. Either the family has the rights to the script and they kind of just, go over all the highlights and all the good stuff, and they kind of gloss over the stuff that made them become the people that they are and the icons that we know them of. Or it's the other side. The family has nothing to do with the film, and it doesn't even feel like it's a biopic about that particular artist. So what did I think about this film? Did I learn more about Aretha Franklin? Is it worth checking out? Let's start off with my positives. Starting off with the director of this film, Liesl Tommy, who's mostly known for her work in Broadway plays, stage plays. She's won a Tony Award. Very accomplished director in that sense, but this is her directorial debut, and I gotta say, I was beyond impressed by her directorial debut. I felt like she had such a grip, such a handle on the story. I thought that she did a good job of balancing the accomplishments, the good moments of Aretha Franklin's life, but not neglecting and ignoring the demons, the darker side, the alcoholism, the her being a mother and in and out of her kid's life, the abuse that she went through. I mean, I thought that she really did balance out the good, the highs and the lows, but also too, there is personality in this film. There's spunk in this film. So just a little bit behind the scenes, I went to a press screener, and normally when I go to a press screener, all the critics and the journalists are all there, and they're pretty subdued, and eating their popcorn, drinking. It's very quiet, right? You wouldn't even know that anyone else is in the theater because everyone just kind of keeps to themselves. But that was not the case when I saw this last night. I haven't been to church in a while, and I grew up in a Baptist church, and I haven't been in a very long time, but I'm telling y'all what, I feel like I was in Sunday church last night. I mean, visceral reactions to what was going on. People were clapping. I mean, it didn't distract me from the film. People were respectful enough. They clapped when it was appropriate to clap. They cheered when it was appropriate to cheer. They laughed. It was just a good, it just makes me miss the theatrical experience. It was just a good theatrical experience with this film. And again, it goes back to the direction of this film. There was personality, there was heart, there was soul, and again, shout out to the director making her directorial debut in Liesl Tommy. But let's transition into these performances. In this cast, man, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I could spend hours about talking about how impressed I was by the cast, but just highlighting actors like Barbara, the mother who played Barbara Franklin, Marc Maron as Jerry Wexler, Tituss Burgess as James, Cleveland, and also the actress that played her sister. Everyone that had a supporting role, I thought did a fantastic job in the role. But I want to kind of focus a little bit more on the lead of this movie, who had all the weight on her shoulders to bring this icon, the Queen of Soul, to life, and that is Jennifer Hudson, who I've been a fan of. You know, that's hometown girl there. I'm from Chicago. She's from Chicago. But she had a lot on her plate, ladies and gentlemen. This is a big role to play, right? This is, again, the Queen of Soul. And I remember seeing Jennifer Hudson in her first role, 2006, which is crazy, in Dreamgirls, and seeing her career kind of, obviously go throughout the years, some highs, some lows, for example, Cats. But nonetheless, wow, Jennifer Hudson, this is how I feel about her performance. And the nominations for Best Lead Actress goes to, I feel like she will be on that list of Best Leading Actresses in this role. She was fantastic. The cadence in her voice, at first it took a little bit to get used to. She tried to not to impersonate Aretha Franklin, but she tried to put that softness, that soul that Aretha Franklin had in her voice. I thought she did a good job of doing that. It's the swagger, it's the persona, it's the charisma that she brought to the role, but it's also the struggle, it's the vulnerability, it's the strength, it's the stuff that she learned at a young age. Which, by the way, the young actress that plays her, Skye Dakota Turner, who played the young version of Aretha Franklin, who had a lot on her plate. She was pretty much the main lead of the movie for the first 15-20 minutes. I thought that young actress is fantastic. But again, going back to Jennifer Hudson, she brought her A game. She brought me to tears at points of this film. I thought, the singing, you talk about a once-in-a-lifetime voice. Again, she's playing the Queen of Soul, whose voice transcends music, but Jennifer Hudson brought her game when it came to this, not the singing, the singing. She was fantastic in this movie. Again, I felt like I was in church, and oh my goodness, the soul that she has in her voice was absolutely fantastic. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I will not be surprised. I'll be disappointed if she is not nominated when it comes to that time of the year next year for Oscars. But again, let's talk a little bit about some other characters. Now, I like to refer this to as the men of Aretha Franklin's life, starting off with Forest Whitaker as C.L. Franklin, her father, who is a minister, one of the biggest ministers, the biggest minister at the time of Detroit. Forest Whitaker, man, he was a interesting character. Again, I didn't know all this stuff about her life, right? And it's just seeing the way she was raised, which she was raised in a really good environment in regards to she wasn't, brought up in Section 8. She had her father there, and I'll talk a little bit about her mother in a second. But, her father was a very well-known, like I said, minister, had good relationships with everyone, including Dr. Martin Luther King and a lot of influential people back then. So grew up in a really good household, but Father had some expectations, and Father pushed her to really be the leader in the family, and he saw something in her, which I respect that about him, right? Speaking of respect, but it's the way he went about it. And, C.L. Franklin, he was a good dad. He thought he did right by his daughter, but at the same time, he was pushing her too much. There was moments where she would be in bed, and she would have to get up in the middle of the night to perform in front of people at parties. There were moments where there was abuse from the father, verbally and physically. And again, you saw the love, you saw what he saw in her, but at the same time, at what expense? At what expense do you show that love? Is it through verbal abuse? Is it through physical abuse? So I thought Forest Whitaker was fantastic in this role, but also the wild card in this movie, and I've been a fan of his for a long time. I'm talking about Marlon Wayans as Ted White, the first husband of Aretha Franklin. Wow, Marlon Wayans, man, of course a lot of people know him from Scary Movie and the Wayans brothers and his comedy beats, but people forget that he's a really good actor. And I thought that him as Ted White, who again, this was all new to me. You talk about Ike and Tina, this is another version of that, man. And I'm not, not making any glorification of that. I mean, this man, he showed a loving husband, but when stuff got rough, when his opinion wasn't number one, when he wasn't number one in her list and priority, I want you to sing for me. I want you to sing, about me. He was very territorial, very jealous, very, very abusive, and I thought that Marlon Wayans was very integral in the story and played a really good role. And again, just piggybacking off of the chemistry that Jennifer Hudson had with her dad, the chemistry she had with Marlon Wayans was fantastic. And even going back to just thinking about more stuff about learning about Aretha Franklin, not diving too deep into the spoilers, obviously this is a true story, but I didn't know about the stuff that she went through as a child, which just broke my heart. And it hits pretty early in the film. And when you all see the film, and you all probably know it, that are familiar with her life. That was just so heartbreaking, and just knowing how she came to be a mother for the first time. It's just, this film touched on so many aspects that I just was, again, my fear with biopics, they don't go to that length. They don't really show you all, they show you the highs, but they don't show you all the lows, and I thought this film did a good job at that, and again, the performances were fantastic. But transition a little bit into the story beats without diving too deep into how this film shows you her life. We focus on like a 20-year window between 1952 and 1972, so when she's 10 all the way up to when she's 30, and we see from her being 10 years old and waking up at night singing for her dad, going to church and singing on Sundays and being with the choir. We see her having her first contract with Atlantic Records or Columbia Records and transitioning to Atlantic Records. We see her fallout in her relationship and her highs and lows with her sisters, her mother, who was very influential to her life, and her mother teaching her what singing means, and also her relationship with James Cleveland and music being her life. You see the transition from her going to becoming a woman and falling in love with Ted White and their relationship and their highs and their lows, and then, you know, transition to just kind of how the film kind of concludes: self-discovery, self-worth, learning from your past, facing your demons head on. I mean, the structure of this film is really well done. I really like how they focused on the big moments of her life, but again, they did not shy away from the toxic moments, the more tragic moments, the more darker moments, and everything that she went through. So I really enjoyed that aspect. I can't neglect, I mentioned a little bit about the singing and the singing, but the singing by Aretha Franklin, or I should say Jennifer Hudson and her sisters, and just the behind the scenes of how they came up with songs. I love that aspect of this film, how they show you how she comes up with the iconic music, how she came up with certain beats, and how she came up with the grooves and the different tones and different music setups when she meets different artists. I love the behind the scenes of this movie, and again, I felt like I was in church, ladies and gentlemen. It was a lot going on there in regards to the personality this film has. But again, whether it be seeing her facing her demons, becoming her own woman, discovering who she wants to be as an artist, it was all there for me. So I can go on and on and on about, again, the cinematography, the score, the direction, the acting, but let's talk about some of my criticisms here. First and foremost, I mentioned that we focus on a 20-year span of her life, which span between when she's 10 all the way when she's up to her 30s, and I would say I thought that the film, when we would go from one accomplishment to the next or a pivotal part of her life, the time jumps were a little bit too abrupt for me, right? I think of a moment where we see her transition from a 10-year-old to a 17-year-old, and we see when she's a 17-year-old, she has 2 kids. And I'm just like, oh, I know if we would have focused on every single aspect, this would have been a TV show, right? But it were points and that's one example of like, oh, where did these kids come from? And we kind of learn about that in the film, but it just kind of happened. I think about when we see her when she's, 17, and she's already had a record label. It's like, oh, what was the struggle like? What was her first single like? It was certain points in this film where we just went from one event to the next event, and we really didn't spend too much time in those moments. It just kind of happened, and like I said, it kind of felt abrupt for me, which kind of speaks to the film at points. It gives you all the big moments of her life. Again, her growing up in church, her being the daddy's girl and being the number one girl and being the one that can get the family in a particular situation, transition to her and her womanhood and fall in love with Ted and having a kid and her other relationships. I feel like they showed you all this stuff, but I don't feel like they always committed to certain plot points. We would just kind of move on and kind of go to the next point and go to the next point. So again, if we would have focused on every single aspect, it would have been, like I said, a 7-hour movie, and it might as well have been a show. But I just didn't feel like the film really fully committed to certain things, fully committed to certain relationships, like the relationship that she had with her grandmother, which I thought was very pivotal, but we didn't spend too much time on that aspect. Her relationship with her sisters had a little bit of a moment, but they were missing for parts of the film, as well as her dad. So it's just moments in her life and plots that I feel like the film just didn't really fully commit on, which brings me to my last point, which I talk about. I wish we would have spent more time on certain aspects, but this film is almost 2.5 hours, and I feel like there were moments, some pacing issues, more so in the second half of the film, that could have been trimmed down a little bit to maybe focus on some of those other relationships I just mentioned and really kind of even out things a little bit more. So for me, I never felt like it was a slog fest, but I do feel like there were some pacing issues in the second half of the movie. So those are really kind of my main criticisms. Before I give you all my overall score and let you know if it's worth checking out in theaters, make sure if you haven't already to like, share, comment your thoughts in the comment section, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. Overall, Respect is a film about the icon, the Queen of Soul, how she came to be, how she was raised, how she had to go to struggles, how she had to face her demons, and ultimately a story about self-discovery, a story about one of the best singers of all time, one of the most influential singers of her generation, a generational type of person, the Queen of Soul herself. I think this film did a true and a beautiful job of telling that story of the Queen of Soul, of Aretha Franklin. So with that being said, I'm going to give this film a solid 4 out of 5. Again, I have my criticisms, but I was very pleasantly surprised by how the film was able to tackle not just her high moments, but also focus on those low moments, and then seeing her discover who she is as a person was such a phenomenal journey, and I can't recommend it enough for you all. So again, 4 out of 5 for me. That score might go up when I see it for a second time, a third time. I really enjoyed this film, especially with a crowd of people. So that's my thoughts on the film. If you all are able to see it in theaters when it comes out August 13th, I definitely recommend you see it in the theaters, or if you want to see it at home, see it with your family, see it with your friends, and enjoy this journey. So that's my thoughts on the Aretha Franklin film, Respect. If you are excited for the film, let me know. Once you've seen the film, let me know your thoughts, your pros, your cons, your thoughts on the performances, the direction, the story. Were you disappointed? Let's discuss it all in the comments. And well, let me know your favorite biopics, and also what would be an artist or singer you would like to see get a biopic on their life next. Thank you all for watching this review. If you stuck around to this point in the video, I appreciate every single one of you all. Again, just a reminder to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. We got a lot of stuff on the channel now, and I have a lot more reviews to shoot in the coming days, so keep an eye out for those videos. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you on the next video.